Welcome back to MediaScience MYTH BUSTING. I'm your host, Philip Lomax, and I'm joined by Dr. Dwayne Varan. On today's episode, we're going to continue our conversation about interactive ads. And as we shared previously, we know from media science research that interactive ads are better than standard ads. But today's myth is in regards to the best use cases of interactive ads. So the myth today is whether or not a click for more info button is the best use case for an interactive ad. So Dr. Varan, how do we go about tackling this myth?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it speaks to a challenge. So the challenge is you bring interactivity to the mix. Now, today, this is really easy because, of course, of connected TV. So now we have connected TV. It's really, any ad could theoretically be interactive. But the question is, what would you do? Like if you had an ad and you could go to interactive, what could you do? And there are a lot of very interesting ideas that people have had over the years. One of the most powerful that we have found is what we call telescopic ads, where you click on an ad to go to a longer version of the ad. So, it could be that it's a story, and you click and you actually get a longer version of the story. Or it could be that there's information about the product, or it could be that there's information about the making of the commercial, like there might be really cool special effects. So these are all examples of things you could do. Sometimes people do sweepstakes. You can enter into sweepstakes. So there are hundreds of possibilities around, all the things that you could do. And what we wanted to understand was what's the best thing to do, what's good and what's bad. And the most common thing that people do as soon as you say, okay, you can have an interactive ad, the number one go-to for everybody is click for more information. So, but there are others as well. So what we wanted to know is click for more information, enter into sweepstakes, what are the kinds of relative response rates that we're likely to see with these different things. So what we did at the time when we did this study, the largest interactive TV platform in the world was B-Sky B in the UK, which at that time had something like 65 to 70% penetration, which was huge. So this is on your cable TV. You had interactive ads that you could press a button, press a red button, get more information, click for more information, or have a product sample sent to you, or a whole bunch of other things. So of course they had a treasure trove of data. So they had all this data, but what we needed to do was we needed to code all that data against over 100 execution variables. So this is based on some research that was done from some academics way back in the day. It was professors named Stewart and First, and what they did is they would take ads and they would classify all the different things that were happening second by second. Is there a celebrity present? Are you comparing yourself to another product? All these things. So we took all the classic TV ad execution variables, and then we added to that additional variables that were associated with interactivity. So this process of taking these over 100 execution variables for what was over 500 ads, just to give you a sense of how hard this research was to actually conduct, that was over 80,000 coding decisions.
Wow.
By the research team.
Incredible.
So it was a massive enterprise. You also have to do this where you have more than one person code it. So you have two people code it, and if they disagree, the third is the referee. So it was a huge enterprise to sit down and code all that data. But once we had all the data from B-Sky B's back end with our coding of all the creative execution variables, then we could sit down and we could analyze, properly what the effect was associated with each of those over 100 variables. And then the story gets better. Having succeeded in doing this B-Sky B project, which was a massive enterprise, again, that coding task was a full year of coding for the research team, just to give you a sense of what a big enterprise this study was. Having succeeded in doing that, we then persuaded Wink in the United States. Now, Wink doesn't exist anymore, but in the late 90s, they were the first interactive platform that really came out with these kind of interactive options. And they had this treasure trove of data that was basically stored away in a safe somewhere. And so even though it was no longer relevant in the sense that it wasn't in the market anymore, we approached them and we persuaded them to give us access to their data, which of course had been collected, maybe a decade before. And so we were able to analyze the same data using the same coding scheme, but we had to, again, analyze and code all those ads, all those creative ads. And then having done that, we then took what was Project Canoe, which was a joint venture between all of the main US cable companies that also had interactive ad features. And we did the same thing with Canoe. So now we had data from B-Sky-B, from Wink, from Project Canoe. I mean, this was a massive data set. And in that way, we could properly analyze the effect of every one of those execution variables.
Absolutely incredible, Dr. Varan, especially in today's day and age when you have multiple ad tech companies trying to innovate, trying to come up with new products without as much direction as they could have. Please tell us, what did you find?
So it's not a surprise if I tell you what the most powerful thing was that you could do. The most powerful thing you can do is to include the word free. Using the word free in your ad, in your call to action, in your interactive call to action, using the word free drove response up, get this, 591%.
Oh my goodness.
So free is really powerful. When people see the word free, they get very excited. So that was on the positive side. But speaking to today's myth, the other thing that we discovered, which was absolutely shocking, was just about the worst thing you could do on the platform was click for more information. Even though click for more information was the most common thing that people were doing. In fact, click for more information drove response down 423%.
Wow.
So it's the kiss of death. And what's really funny about this story is that at the time, there had actually been a number of campaigns that had been wildly successful. And those campaigns had click for more information in them. And so these case studies that existed at the time about these incredibly successful campaigns, because they had click for more information, everybody in the market, from B-Sky-B to the main advertisers, drew the conclusion that it was because of this click for more information. But in actual fact, it was despite the fact that it had click for more information, not because of the fact that it had that click for more information. So our kind of analysis, what was really necessary to really be able to get at. The other reason why it was so misleading is that the kind of methods that B-Sky-B had used when they first introduced interactive advertising was focus groups. And there are people in focus groups who are more vocal than others. And we know from subsequent research that we've done at MediaScience that the kind of people who are more vocal are the kind of people who like click for more information. And so in those focus groups, they were the ones who were advocating for click for more information, and they dominated the discussions. And so another reason why that flaw had happened in the market, if you will, was because of the type of research that had been done. So these are the kinds of insights that we discovered in the research.
It's just another great example as well, Dr. Varan, around having to use multiple tools for the task at hand. Qualitative focus groups are an incredible tool, but they're one side of this conversation or this learning process that we're all on. So what are the implications, what are the future implications of this analysis, this meta-analysis that you did?
Yeah, so one of the principles that I think is really important out of all of this is the role that good research plays in guiding what we do, ultimately. Interactive TV advertising never really got off the ground right, and even to this day, it struggles, and it shouldn't. It should actually be a real go-to, because we know from the work that we've done that it's a really powerful new advertising paradigm. But the problem is that the people who do it often don't really know what they're doing. So they're kind of like experimenting with things, or they're actually telling the market to do the wrong things, as was the case with B-Sky-B. B-Sky-B was encouraging people to say, click for more information, right? And that inoculated the market ultimately from it really experiencing its success, because at the end of the day, it didn't translate into the kinds of sales that people expected. And so the lesson in all of this really is the role that best in class, high quality research plays in guiding our market decisions. We should not be doing decisions based on our gut feels. We shouldn't be doing research, making our decisions based on cheap research. It's important to get the proposition right, to test it right, so that we end up with insights that really help guide us to truth, because ultimately that's what will prevail in the marketplace.
Indeed. Another incredible episode on interactive advertising. So Dr. Varan, the myth that within interactive advertising we should be just using the click for more info button. What say you?
Busted.
Until next time, I'm your host, Philip Lomax. This is Dr. Dwayne Varan, and thank you, our audience.